King Ben has been kidnapped. Mal and her daughter Daisy went to the Isle of the Lost hoping to find some clue, and Dizzy suggested them to pay a visit to Maleficent. After a fight involving magic, cooler heads prevailed, and Maleficent accepted to reveal who kidnapped Ben in exchange of finally having a proper grandmother-niece relationship with Daisy. Turns out the evil queen and Jafar took him, and now Daisy, Mal, and Maleficent are on their way to bring the king home. Welcome back, Villain Nation! If you're new to our channel, please remember to subscribe and turn the notifications on so you won't miss out on any of our Descendants videos. Daisy rolled her eyes as her mother and grandmother bickered about everything. They fought the whole way about where to go and how to get there. It was funny at first, but it was going on too long, and it was giving her a headache. They were both stubborn and wanted to be in charge. No wonder they didn't get along. "Please stop arguing," she said, sighing heavily. Mal glanced back at her, smiled, and looked at Maleficent, who was smiling just the same. They both nodded and said at the same time, "We can try." "That was the first time you guys agreed on anything this entire time," Daisy said, feeling better about this trip. Maleficent laughed loudly at what Daisy said, nodding. "Let's figure out where to go now, okay?" Mal and Maleficent spoke briefly about where Jafar and the evil queen were. They had been hiding out in a small house, not far from Maleficent's house. They both agreed on a way to get there and led the way until they stared at the house that they were supposed to be hiding out in. The three of them stood outside and said, "Let's do this now." They all burst into the house. Jafar and the evil queen were standing in the middle, waiting for them. "It took you guys long enough," Jafar said. "I was beginning to wonder if you guys were ever going to find us." "Let go of the king," Mal said to them. "Or what?" The evil queen laughed. "You look so weak right now. You too, Maleficent. You two were so powerful. What happened?" "There's nothing you can do to stop us," Jafar said as he raised his staff and slammed it onto the ground. A red beam hit her mother and grandmother, making them freeze in place, unable to move. Daisy screamed as she saw them. Their magic was still too weak to do anything about it. Jafar and the evil queen looked at Daisy and said, "Oh, who's this? The princess?" "What a beauty," the evil queen said as she stared at her. "That's too bad." Jafar raised his staff, aiming to hit her, but without thinking, Daisy chanted, "You're mine now, listening to me and bow." As if the staff had a mind of its own, it flew out of Jafar's hand and into Daisy's. Jafar widened his eyes as he saw that she took it with ease. The evil queen gasped and said, "I thought she couldn't use magic." "You were wrong," Daisy said. Her eyes glowed green as she stared at them. She turned to her mother and grandmother, using the staff so they could be released from Jafar's magic. Mal grinned and said, "That's my girl." "Your magic is unbelievable," Maleficent said proudly. Daisy beamed as she heard the compliments from her family. She knew she still had a lot of training to do, but she was glad that she could help them and make her mother proud of her. Daisy faced Jafar and the evil queen and said, "Where is my father?" "In here," the evil queen said, waving her compact mirror at them. "You can't get him." She opened the mirror to show that her father was trapped inside. He was banging his hands against the glass. They could hear him saying, "We can work something out. Please let me go." Daisy felt relieved when she saw that her father was okay. From next to her Mal's side, as she saw him, she said, "Oh, thank goodness, he's okay." Reminded of what Maleficent said, Daisy glanced back at Jafar and the evil queen. She felt sorry for them. After all, they were only doing this because they were angry about not seeing their children and grandchildren. "You know," Daisy started as she put the staff on the ground, kicking it back to Jafar. Mal and Maleficent widened their eyes, gaping at her for giving it back to him. "I know your grandchildren." Jafar and the evil queen paused and glanced at each other before saying anything. Jafar picked up his staff, putting it away like how Daisy hoped he would. The evil queen put the mirror on the table in front of her and said, "How are Evie and my granddaughter?" Evie is doing good, Mal said with a small smile. She spoke carefully, choosing her words to be perfect. She got married, and they had a beautiful daughter. Her name is Jade, Daisy said, remembering her friend. She's one of my best friends and is the funniest person I know. She's also smart and talented. The evil queen smiled, tears filling her eyes. She said, I haven't heard from them at all. What about Jay? Jafar asked. Is he okay? He's doing amazing too, Mal said. Maleficent had been right. All they wanted was to know about their family, the people they hadn't heard from in the longest. Maybe her father was right about everything. All they needed was some love and caring. He has a son, Daisy added. His name is Jordan. He's athletic and skilled in many sports. He really takes after his father. I'm so glad, Jafar said. Who would have thought? The villains from the old days had a soft spot for their families. Even after all this time, they still cared about them. I'm sure that if you let go of my father, you guys can work something out. Jafar and the evil queen nodded as they cast a spell that released Daisy's father from the mirror. Daisy and Mal gasped as they saw him standing in front of them, looking around the room confusedly. They ran into his arms, pulling him into a hug. Mal said, I'm so glad you're safe. We missed you, Daisy said, smiling. It's nice to see you, King Ben, Maleficent said, standing in the back. Nice to see you too, Ben said, nodding at her. He hugged his wife and daughter, smiling. I missed you too. After they finished, King Ben turned to Jafar and the evil queen. He invited them back to Aradan so they could talk more about the issue and how to fix it. They agreed to come while Mal and Daisy said goodbye to Maleficent. Mal reminded her about their family visit as Maleficent smiled and nodded. I'll see you soon, little one, Maleficent said as Daisy gave her a big hug. When they said their goodbyes, they made their way back to Aradan. You did a good job back there, Mal said to Daisy. You would make a fine queen. Daisy smiled, feeling proud of herself. She could tell that she was making a fine magic user and a decent queen. After all, she said, thank you. When they arrived back to Aradan, King Ben and Queen Mal agreed that the families of the villains could meet, if there was supervision and with the agreement that no magic be involved. This treaty made everyone happy. It gave everyone what they wanted. Daisy did well after all. She was no longer the clumsy girl she was before going on this trip. She was growing into the person her parents would be proud of. It was something she was excited about and couldn't wait to tell her best friend. Now, as she sat on the green grass, as she usually did, she saw Jade skip over to where she was with a bright smile on her face. Plopping down to sit next to her, Jade brushed her blue hair over her shoulder. Seems like you're a big fish now, huh? I knew you had it in ya, Jade said with a giggle. Now we can definitely try that new spell you found. I promise I won't turn you into a gerbil, Daisy said, happily despite the bad feeling in her stomach. She knew that she still had a long way to go, and so did Aradan. She could feel that there was another trouble brewing up, but she couldn't tell what it was. For now, she decided to ignore it. The end. I'm Lady Blah Blah, and as always, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this story, feel free to check out another one. And don't forget to put a like, subscribe, and share this video with your villain friends.